January 2nd, 2024. Note that the agenda has the wrong year. Just noticed, reviewed it twice today, didn't notice till right now.
Good catch.
Welcome to 2024, everyone.
Yep, there it is.
Okay, so it's 7 o'clock. We will start our meeting. I will call the meeting to order. First things first, I'd like to review the agenda and see if we need any adjustments. So the plan is to start with public comment, then approve the minutes from our last meeting, which was December 5th. Then discuss the 2024 Planning Commission work plan. I'm assuming, Linda, you have an overview of
I sure
to
do.
present. That's just I know I just expect
Yes.
that kind of like rock star treatment. And then a town plan process for evaluating progress, then reports in terms of events, so liaison updates, takeaways from recent events and seminars and upcoming events, other business, wrap up, executive session. So the meat of this is our discussion around the work plan for this year, not next year, this year. Does anyone see any reason to change the agenda? No. Okay. Then we will move forward to public comment. Are there any public joining us tonight?
Nope.
Not yet. Okay. Well, that being said, yes, we'll move forward from public comment and talk about the minutes of December 5th. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of December 5th?
Motion to approve.
Do I have any changes or corrections or comments about the minutes of December 5th? No. I have a second.
I'll second.
Okay, Heidi, second to approve the minutes of December 5th. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Except for Susan, who's not here. All right. Well, that's pretty quick. That was number 4. And on to number 5. Ahead of schedule.
Wow. Yes, we are breezing through.
Motion to adjourn.
Wait. Wait for it. I'm actually pretty excited about our work plan overview because I'm ready to move on. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, let me share. This is still preliminary, it's subject to change. Only just started working on it. A little bit between Christmas and New Year's. So let me, hold on, I gotta do the share screen thingy.
Present.
Here's my Zoom window. So Susan and I started doing this last year. I don't know if we've ever showed it to all of you here, but we kind of sketch out projects that we think we will be working on. We did this at the beginning of last calendar year, and then we had some other projects, and then things that we, just want to keep that the PC wants to keep tabs on and get updated about, versus things that the planning commission is intending to actively be working on, and sort of try to guess as far as like what quarter of the year we might be ready to tackle things in. So that's sort of the background of this document and how it came to be. So when I was creating the draft for this for 2024, I looked through our new town plan that was adopted by the select board and pulled out some of the items that the planning commission had tasked itself with for implementing within 1 year. I made sure that those were all on here, and then I looked at the within 3 years and the longer term, which I think is within 5 years, just to see if there were any of them that seemed like we could squeeze them in the first year. And so that's how I kind of started populating this. And then the lower half of the spreadsheet here, which is the other projects, are other things that basically I'm probably the main person working on them, but the PC wants to receive updates about them. And some of them are still unknown pending notification, a couple of the grants on there. Not sure whether we'll get or not, but I wanted to make sure we had them in the queue if and when we get notification about whether they're funded. So that's sort of the background, giving context for the spreadsheet. And then I'm gonna go through most of this and kind of just talk through and explain what they all are and get some feedback from you guys. That sound good? So the first one, develop the process. This is from the town plan, getting it done list. Develop the process to evaluate and report progress on the town plan goals annually. So when, I thought about how this would play out, and Susan and I talked a little bit about this. We thought in this first quarter, it'd be good to sort of have some conversations like we're gonna have tonight and getting ideas for, you know, what we'd want that report to look like, if there's any data we need to be collecting or monitoring, that kind of thing, so that, we can have the process figured out early in the year. And then we put in a placeholder in our meetings calendar, that we build out using this spreadsheet into the specific meeting dates for every quarter to have a conversation quarterly about our progress. So just a verbal check-in, and whether or not there's data collection that goes on in the intern, that's something we'll, you know, talk about tonight and maybe at another meeting. But that's sort of like the framework that we've thought about for evaluating the progress. At least having like a quarterly conversation where it's on our agenda.
I was thinking, I've been thinking a lot since the last select board meeting. And I have concerns about how quickly any of this work is going to move ahead. I was going to propose that the Planning Commission issue a quarterly progress report to a public progress report to the town that would include things that we've done and things that we are doing next and things that we're waiting for, so that we could, I think, having made this town plan, I think it's incumbent on us to act as proactively as we can to make sure that it gets implemented. And I think that, as we've said before, the last 30 whatever years of the town have been sort of kind of maintaining status quo. And the new plan is distinctly not that. And I think it's going to be, I think we are ideally situated to make sure that it's more than status quo. And one way I thought we could do that is to really push hard at the schedule in a public way that holds everybody accountable. And that would also sort of, along the way, hopefully would continue to develop the sense of trust that the town has on us as we are just more public with what we're doing and what the progress is and what the next steps are and who's responsible, and, you know, so that it's just more out there. Because I think that if we don't do that, that will be, you know, 7 years from now, whoever's on the planning commission will be sort of in the same place we were last year. And I, you know, personally don't want that.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was thinking one idea would be to issue some kind of quarterly. And I'm thinking, what I'm hoping is that other people in the town, for example, the select board, but not exclusively the select board, would come to realize, oh, we don't really have the manpower to do all of this. We need help. So anyway, that I was going to suggest that.
That's great, and I like where you're going with that. I wonder if we could just set it on the table while we get through the spreadsheet, and then
That's
bring it
fine,
back
sure.
when we-
I just brought it up because
Yeah,
it
no,
was,
that's great.
seems.
So what I read in box A3 is instead of it saying annually, I think it should say quarterly.
Mhm.
And it can do what Chris just described, because I feel like an annual review is way too long to
Right.
go without talking about it and publicizing what progress we have or have not made.
I think the reason it said annually was because the intent was to include something in the town report annually, if I remember the language, but that doesn't mean we can't produce
Right.
something quarterly.
And maybe it can say both.
Yeah.
Right?
I could
wonder if-
quarterly slash annually.
Quarterly for
Quarterly
the,
is
for the
too
public.
short of a time frame. Because a lot of what we're doing is quarter to quarter, it's,
But it's not just us. It's,
yeah.
I mean, there are other things that will come up on this
Like, we
list.
have
but-
But would you
multiple-
expect to have something new to say each quarter?
Yes. I think
Yeah.
we should, if we have multiple goals
Yes.
with a 1-year time horizon.
Yeah,
We absolutely.
We
if
should.
You have multiple goals with a 1-year time horizon, you better believe you're giving quarterly updates to whoever
yeah.
you're accountable to. And they've got our name on them. A lot of, well, some of them do.
Some of
Yeah.
them.
Quite a lot of.
Okay, so the next one is the character-based zone, which is the Riverside form-based code update, and I'm happy to share that we were awarded the bylaw modernization.
Congratulations.
So that's very exciting. So right now I am waiting to receive a written contract from the state for the funds for that. And I'm gonna be meeting with David in the next week or so to talk to him about our timeline and getting more details and specifics about his scope of work and all the details on that. So I think that's exciting. We can, check a box of progress that we've already secured some funding and are making, taking steps to take action on that item, which is great. And as part of that grant, it's not just updating the form-based code, but I also included an update. Well, I think you all made the suggestion to update the whole village center zoning district. And so that will be another component of the bylaw modernization grant. So it'll be updating the form-based code in Riverside and updating the village center zoning. And both of those, I think, are accomplishable within 1 year. Next one is regarding the wastewater feasibility study. So, I do have a conversation with the engineer coming up this week about the 60% draft report. He's still making some edits on that, and then John and I will be figuring out dates to hold meetings, three meetings, one in each village center, to where the engineer will present the alternative options for each of the 3 villages.
Is the engineer pretty far behind their schedule?
Yeah.
So would it be appropriate to ask the select board to get on the phone and call the engineer up and say, you're late, we're getting pissed, we want results?
Mhm. Is there a penalty clause in the contract?
No, there's no
I imagine
penalty.
that,
And to be fair, some of the delay is due to the town on our part, because John and I felt it was important that the town, John and I, reach out to some of the landowners who are identified in this report as owning properties that have potential to site a facility. And we did not want the engineers producing a report and putting it out without these landowners knowing that their property is
That's wise.
going to be identified. So part of the delay was because of that.
Has that been done now?
Most of them have been contacted or at least sent a letter. Some of them had phone calls, some of them have had face-to-face conversations, so. Made progress
Any
on that.
objections?
I mean, there weren't any yeah, there are some objections. And I think there's concerns, but I don't think I can think of anyone that was like a definite no. But what we were just asking, we're just trying to inform them that their property would be identified in this report as the potential location. We weren't necessarily asking, hey, today, can you say yes or no, whether this is something that you would consider? Because obviously that's gonna take more time and conversation.
So
Linda,
I
this
guess,
might be a nitty gritty question, but, and we can have it later, but is there a way that we can help the engineer? Organize, present during, not present the facts during the meeting, but help facilitate a conversation for those
Yeah.
meetings, they're recognizing that their skill set may not be meeting facilitation.
Yeah, I've talked about that with Susan and John, that what I would like to do is have sort of in the town, either me or Susan or both or John, do an introduction, like why we're doing this, the background. And then before the engineer gets into actually like talking about the different alternatives. Yes, you're right, because the engineer is a wonderful engineer.
Right.
But yeah, I don't think he's strong.
I just want to make sure that, and I don't know, you know way more about it than I do, obviously, but I just want to make sure that the engineer knows that we're ready to move on this. And a lot of times it's the squeaky wheel that gets the attention. And if some other projects are calling them all the time, they're going to pay attention to them. And so I want to, I feel like this is getting on the back burner and I'm frustrated by it. And I think, anyway, so if it would be appropriate, then we could ask the select board to reach
Yeah.
out on the town's behalf. I mean,
Yeah, I'll take
the
that
select
into
board, because they're
consideration.
the ones who approved it. They're the sort of top of the food chain, I think. But anyway,
Yeah,
When do you expect still to see the 90% at the end of Q2?
well, I think that will be part of the conversation that we have in the next meeting with the engineer. What's a realistic, like.
Is there a deadline for when our
90%?
funds have to be spent for this and it has to be done?
Yes, but it's like 5 years out or something. It's not a tight deadline. It's not close. I
Okay.
guess is what I'll say.
Good and bad.
Yeah. All right, so. Yep, that's the wastewater one, and then the official map, which is in the town plan. I'm not sure exactly when we'll be ready to do this, because I think one of the factors that we decided to delay it for was waiting on the wastewater. So we would know if there were properties identified there that should be on an official map. So this will have to kind of flex and kind of see the time frame for that, but I would think it could be the second half of the year.
Would it make sense for us to look at the official map and the existing town topography, zones and districts, and sort of say, these areas we know are not going to be affected by the wastewater, so let's start putting a map in place for those. At least get some progress on it, or is that too much to bite off?
I think if some of you want to start working on non-wastewater related things that could be on an official map, which would be things like trail connections, sidewalk easements,
Natural gas lines.
that kind of
Water.
stuff. If there was a small group that wanted to start doing that in the meantime.
How much of that does
Or-
the CCRC already have? That they can give us an overlay of?
I don't know.
I'm not sure they would have any of that aside from maybe road infrastructure.
They'll have existing
I believe they'll have,
structure, but I don't know that
Yeah.
they'll have, so the intent of the official map is for future
right,
investment.
but I think it
so-
needs to include everything that we already have, so that we know where to lay future infrastructure, right?
Right.
Like you don't want, whatever it is conflicting with a gas line. Stuff like that.
Yeah, they definitely have all the infrastructure maps, because they were in the town plan.
Right.
That show like the water
Right.
lines, the gas, yeah, they do have
Yeah.
all the
that's
existing,
what
they
I
even
thought.
have a map of like the sidewalks existing.
Yeah, I thought they
sidewalks and
did.
stuff.
Can I ask
And
a
maybe
process?
trails, I think they do have
Well,
trails,
I
but
think they've been
maybe,
working with trails, so I think they have that and can.
Yeah, I don't know if it's complete or not,
Or correct.
or correct, right? That's,
Can I ask a process question?
Yeah.
So for some of these where it's us and or us with you. Who and how do we get to a plan? From we're here today with an idea to it actually happens and here are all the steps that are needed in between and the scoping and whatnot. Cause I think. Well, Eric, when you asked, is there something that we could start, like having a sort of here's the scope of work, here are the steps that we need to complete, putting it into a more granular timeline than a quarter, like that's a lot of thinking
Mhm.
and processing. And then within that, there's always questions about, who gets to make what decision or what do we include or not include, all that thinking. Is that us? Is that you? Who does that?
are you talking about specific to the official map?
Mm-hmm.
It would be the planning commission with my help and support.
Okay, right,
Right, more likely it would be a subset.
right. So that seems to me like that could be something where a subset would have a lot to chew on and do prior to or in parallel to the time that we're waiting on the
Yeah.
wastewater
Even
stuff.
even the first goal right here,
Mhm.
developing a process for evaluation can be a subset of people.
Right. No, I understood that one.
I-
Yeah.
I'm ready to. Everybody pick one and let's
Mhm.
go.
Okay, all right. Yeah, so just that was the part that's very helpful. Because there are some,
There's enough for everyone.
well,
That's
and
okay.
there are some contingencies about like, we can't do certain things till other things are done, but there's a lot of prep that happens
Yeah.
beforehand. Okay,
Certainly lay the groundwork for almost all of.
that's
these
what I was
before they're
wondering.
coming
Yeah,
into.
okay.
Mhm. And then this next one is similar to number 5 here, but it's updating zoning to incentivize and reduce obstacles to low and moderate income housing in other areas outside of the village center. So right now, with the bylaw modernization grant, we're focusing on the village centers. But there are definitely some updates we can make to the other regions of town. So I didn't have a timeline for that. I think we need to be strategic about how we sequence the zoning updates. So this one, I didn't want it to not be on the list, but I don't know that I can right now say when we might get to that.
So
It's on the
thinking it's
list.
incrementally warning and having public discussions on each subset of zoning changes.
When does our current zoning bylaw expire? I don't,
That's not.
They don't, it doesn't expire,
know.
no.
When does it have to be renewed by the state? Aren't we supposed to update it fairly regularly?
No.
No.
Just the town plan. Bylaws don't expire.
Yeah, I thought they had to be reviewed and updated. Not necessarily expired, but had to be reviewed and updated on a regular basis.
You can leave crap in here forever.
Yeah, sometimes.
Unfortunately,
Yeah,
people
no,
leave
sometimes-
crap in there
yes.
forever.
No,
Yeah.
they-
Needs to
and
get out.
I
Yes.
actually am not even being sarcastic. this
Right.
time.
There's a lot of legacy zoning.
Oh,
stuff.
there's a ton of it. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah,
It'd be nice to get rid of a lot of it.
all right, did you have something else?
I'm just thinking about public works specs and where that fits into
Mhm.
everything that's on there,
That,
or did that just not make the cut?
well, it was on here and then I took it off because
Oh.
that's on John's plate.
Got it.
And I think it's better to stay on his plate because we have enough to do.
Okay.
So that's why it's not. So after this zoning update is another zoning update, the natural resources overlay, which again, I'm not sure what the time frame will be for that. I think some of that is depending on the work that Arrowwood's still.
Arrowwood
doing-
is still working on it.
Okay.
I just spoke with, the consultant before the holidays and he sent us like the most recent draft. He's getting very close to having it ready. So we can start at least having conversations pretty soon.
Okay. I keep me posted on
Yeah.
that.
Does that impact anything with the official map, the results of that study?
It would.
Yeah, I guess I think, I don't know, would it?
If you have
Oh.
potential roads going across a delicate natural area, you would want to make sure that you're not putting there. If you're going to run power lines over areas that are considered important, to run underground utilities through there.
Yeah, so then, yeah,
Yeah.
in that context.
There's a lot of contingencies,
Right,
redundancies.
Or the other
Yeah.
thing I could think of is if there were some areas identified as like high priority to conserve that might want to be included in the official map.
mhm.
There's like a unique habitat or something that would warrant conservation. And lastly, on here, the capital plan and capital budget, that again is in John's purview, but I thought it would be great to have a conversation in the third quarter, probably late third quarter or early fourth quarter, which is when John and Paula start putting together the pieces of the draft budget for the select board to start considering for the next calendar year.
Could we maybe move that up to Q2 so that we can have more influence on it?
Why are we waiting? That's, I
That's
feel
because they
like,
have other stuff that they're working
Yeah.
on. That's when they get to it.
That doesn't mean we can't have a,
right,
here's our list of what we think needs to be done.
right.
Sure, we can move it up to a
Yeah.
different time frame.
Yeah.
But we also have a lot
Mhm.
that we're working on.
Right. But the capital planning process, as we've talked about, is something that looks out years and years. It's not a one-year budget. If anything, if you did the capital planning process and got that underway, the sooner the better. Then when they get to Q3 and they need to do the budget for 1 year, it should be so much easier. Because you
Yeah,
have a
I
capital
think,
plan that spans many years, you know what the priorities are and you know what your outlook is. Then it should just be. Oh, okay, like, oh, yep,
It's a
no,
map,
it's mapped out. We don't need to do it this year. We already reviewed that, like, it should be so much easier to do every year's budget because you have a multi-year plan. That's the motivation behind undertaking something that's really hard.
Is there a
So, yeah, we
way?
could see if it.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, sort of going using the same principle that we were using before. We don't need to know what all the other plans or all the other parts of the capital budget, but the ones where we have identified, we have a responsibility, I think, to look at the items that we've identified as priorities for the town plan. And make sure that we are clear about what money is needed
So we could put that,
over the long term for that to happen, so that we are prepared to say, these are the things and here are the financing mechanisms, because it sounded like that was a big part of the conversation too,
Well,
Yeah.
right?
which leads me to think again that in a way, I think the town needs to fundamentally rethink the way they do their capital budget
100%.
fundamentally. And I think that there's not the expertise in the town to do that right now. And so I would again bring up the idea of if the town manager is a big task, then an interim opportunity would be to hire a consultant to come in, like the St. Albans guy, to come in and say, this is how the town can leverage its resources to move projects forward so that as one bond expires, the next one is already happening, so that
Right.
the debt level can be sort of steady, but the projects keep happening. And I think that that's essential, that reimagining the town budget will be essential to moving the town plan forward. And I don't think, so in my opinion, it's not even, we need to be part of the ongoing process for the capital budget. But I think it, even more importantly, it needs to be rethought with some outside expertise that says, hey, you have opportunities you're missing. You could really move this forward if you did these three things. And the tax implications would be this for the townspeople, and the gains would be these.
Right, I think there's a giant philosophical change that needs to
Huge.
happen for us to make literally any progress at all.
And having,
Yeah,
I'm sorry, but having attended the last select board meeting, I can speak with a lot of confidence that it's not going to come from
Those three people.
those three people in their, as it stands right now. And so I don't know where it comes from, but I'm having just created this plan. Again, like, can we play a role in moving this idea forward?
Oh, and a role in just educating the select board, the general public about the vehicles and tools that are available. Like Chris said, to think of it as a revolving line of credit, not a bond.
Yeah.
Like to change
Right.
some of the wording around it so that it's not so intimidating and so scary. And also, again, another round of education from multiple places in the town, including the school board and our town representatives to the legislature around the fact that our taxes will be changing as a result of legislation that's already happened. That has nothing to do with what the select board or anyone else in our town is doing. It has to do with the makeup and how rich we are, basically.
I wonder
So-
if there's an opportunity for us. And we didn't think about it when we wrote the plan, but so, sorry, late. For this one, the capital plan, the capital budget. There's a piece here in terms of, that's not about the daily operating budget, which is what the focus has seemed to be on, right? As opposed to a long-term economic plan, right? And so if we are reframing it slightly as a long-term economic plan, is this an opportunity for us to partner with the economic development, the new Jericho Economic Development Group? Or I don't even know what they're called.
You mean the corporation? The
Yeah.
Okay.
JCDC.
Is there, I honestly, seriously, don't know what they're called or what their scope is, but I'm just thinking, would it behoove us to have some
Yeah.
other entity or?
I'm not sure that's
not
their
that.
skill
The
set.
right-
That's not their skill set.
But, so Chris, you were at that budget meeting that was last, like a year ago, September, right? And did you take notes on that at all? I took notes, and if you did, we can sort of file them, because I've already sent at some point in the fall, when it looked like nothing was happening with this whole idea of having a capital improvement plan, I sent some of those notes to John to remind him that, we all went to this meeting and that there were very specific contacts listed and ideas given and,
Yep.
did you go to that too?
No, but I think I read your notes or someone else's.
Yeah, and so, if we could sort of,
Right now, we're, yeah,
consolidate that.
we're living
and-
paycheck to paycheck
Right.
and we have no vision.
Right, which
And
is,
no
The way it was
vehicle.
presented, but that's the thing, the way it was presented, it explained exactly what you were saying and made it very.
Yeah.
Like, oh, of
Achievable.
course,
Yeah.
yeah, we want to
Yep.
live that way, that makes
Yes.
sense, and then, they laid it all
It's not that
out.
scary.
All right, so I'm sorry.
well, my question is though, so we have this, again, I think we would need outside expertise.
Right,
And so it's not a new idea. We floated this idea before. So how do we go from floating the idea to making it happen?
Right, so I'm wondering if we go back to Sarah's idea, which is just in terms of this meeting, right? You sort of said, I'm ready to figure out, like, do we have a point person or a subcommittee for each of
Right.
these things?
Like I
Right,
don't need
and
to
then-
do John's business, but
Right.
I can take the time to meet with him and take the list of experts that Sabina had from that presentation that they went to and be like, how can I
Right,
make
So-
space for you to
Yeah.
gain information and things from those people that we can all use and educate the public.
so I'm wondering if we go through each of them and just decide who's gonna be point. And then we'll, to your point. We will then have charged ourselves with looking at our actual capacity to get things done and the phasing that it's gonna need to take, right? But at least we'll have identified where we collectively are gonna place ourselves in moving this range of issues forward.
But Sabina, those people that spoke, it's been a while, and maybe I'm misremembering, but I didn't come away thinking that they were consultants out for hire. I thought that they had a lot of expertise but it seemed like
Were they just municipal staff from
Well,
other?
No, and I don't.
There was
have
somebody from the
notes.
state,
The
there
notes
was-
are
I-
on my iPad,
yeah.
I don't have that with me,
Yeah.
but, there was one person listed who's, was like, I can be a resource for you.
Okay.
And so, maybe the three of us should just sit down and sort of
Sure.
compile.
They may not be for hire, but they probably know 10 or 15 people.
Exactly, they were sort of the person who would say,
They
oh,
were the source of
you
the
need to
source.
do X, or you need to talk to
Yes.
person Y, or this is
Yeah.
what town Z did.
Right.
Was it Vermont League of Cities and
I
Towns?
was involved in it too, but it
Okay.
was beyond that. I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me, so I
Yeah, no,
can't
that's
really,
fine. Yeah.
I'm not gonna misspeak.
I feel like there was somebody from even outside of Vermont.
There was, one
Yeah.
of them was in Kansas.
Yeah.
So there was just a lot of resources that we're not taking advantage of.
Right.
Mhm.
Well, and it's clear that if we think about John, he is overwhelmed right now. He's not gonna be able to move this forward if he's tasked with a town garage issue as well as 5, 10 other things.
Right,
Right
And,
now.
and that's why I think this conversation should piggyback on that.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
that will reverberate in a lot of different ways if we don't
Yeah.
lay it all out.
Well,
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
point is
Yeah.
to not ask because of that, but to ask because of that.
Yeah.
right, exactly.
We just gotta push.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So Linda,
Guys
have
watch
we,
football?
yeah,
No.
The tush push. Like,
Yeah.
we're at the 1 yard line.
Oh my
We just gotta all,
The brotherly shove.
the brotherly shove.
Yeah.
I need a better metaphor, but we can.
I'll
next
send you a,
time,
I'll send you a
next
YouTube video.
And just to put this out there, this is not the only meeting where we will be discussing this work plan. I think based on the conversation we've already had tonight, I think we should have it on another meeting in the near future where we get more in the weeds with it.
I think there's multiple ways, but one of the things that we had wanted to do, I thought tonight was to develop the process. Like we were actually gonna dig in a little bit for number 3.
Yes.
And it also sounds like there's a suggestion that we go through it and just look at, are there individuals within the planning commission who want to be tagged
Yeah. I
to
think that's
help
great.
lead the development of,
Or to help push, like
Or
it's
help-
pretty
right,
clear to me
exactly.
who the leaders are, cause it says lead and it says names and my name is not one of those names. But we could add a column between lead and Q1 that says assist.
Push.
and
Is
you.
there one of those you want to take?
right,
Capital planning, yes.
right.
I am pretty passionate about that in case that wasn't clear,
Hey, a lot of them say PC, which includes.
Right.
all of you.
Right.
Yeah.
but we
But we
should,
could more
yeah, we should
specifically
not all be
identify-
working on every project.
Correct.
But
Yes, I
there
can
are a
add
couple
some.
things on the 1-year plan that don't show up on this list.
Mhm. Is
That
that,
are-
and
that
that was
are
gonna be my
PC?
question too.
Are
Well,
Are
like
they
the
not-
water service.
Right, are they not here
question.
because they're not PC or are
Well,
they
that
not?
was planning office, which is me, and I haven't figured out how to do that yet, but I will.
Okay. And then the other was, I know this is on John, but the initiate a municipal audit.
That's already happening.
Right?
Okay,
It's already in progress.
okay.
We should add it to the list then though, because again, with
But
your
this is
notion
our-
This
of,
is
This is
PC
our
work
PC
plan.
work plan.
I'm sorry, not
PC
the
work plan.
town plan.
Right.
But can we
The
be
PC,
copied
yes.
on that process?
To the point you made earlier, though, about the PC issuing an update,
Right,
we said you need to do this
We're
as
gonna
part of
do
our plan.
Yeah,
So being able to take, hey,
If we could
it's
just,
happening, whether we started it on John's own, it
Right,
was one of the things we said has to happen. And I think
Yep.
every time we can show a suggestion that we made, action around it, increases our viability in the town and increases our influence in the town, which we need to preserve.
I totally agree with you. So I would say that for number 3, developing the process to evaluate and report on. Right, I think what I'm hearing you say, Eric, is that we are recommending that we expand to include all the things that are listed.
Absolutely.
that was the intent.
Right.
and that we be copied on
Right.
progress from other people. Like if John is already started that, it would be great if we could be
Well,
We don't need to be
particularly,
brought into the meeting,
No,
but
oh
if we
God,
could
no,
be,
right.
So
But if
copied on
if
it.
we are gonna hold ourselves accountable
all
to
right.
doing a
I don't wanna
quarterly
create TPC
update.
reports that John's faxing.
No,
I'm
not
okay with
saying
like
that.
if you just
Yeah.
come to our meetings and give us updates once a month.
So here's my recommendation. If we go with Chris's initial suggestion that we have a quarterly progress report, the quarterly progress report is not on the PC only owned. It is for the
Correct, yeah.
entire town plan.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's what that says.
So
Yes.
just that's all I'm saying. So
Yeah.
therefore,
That's what it says. in the
And so
box.
whoever
Yeah.
gets tasked with working on this item will need to do some outreach to the Affordable Housing Committee, to meeting with John, meeting with the Trails Committee, or whoever else is working on things in the town plan,
got it.
to get
Thank you.
updates from them and pull it all together into,
Some
a
lady
report.
named Linda, her name is on here.
Well, I feel like that could be
Yes.
me, because I do all that for the web page anyway.
Perfect,
And
Sabina.
so
Yeah.
I'm doing it.
Yeah.
There you go.
And so it's just consolidating in a different
And
format
just
perhaps,
like
right?
Getting,
Yeah.
getting stuff from
Okay.
Pull in
people.
the first box.
Perfect.
Yep.
And
But
Sabina,
I think
if you need
around that
any,
though, Sabina, each of us should be feeding to you beyond what our own subcommittees are reporting to. So you've got not just,
Yeah.
here's the dry facts, but here's what Wendy said she heard about it. So we can keep
There-
that personal touch all the way through.
There's this underlying assumption that the other town committees are tracking on what's in the town plan and that they're developing a work plan. Which
it's a great
May-
assumption.
may or may not.
I would imagine that the committees you're on will be doing this. I know the one I'm on will be doing this.
I just don't know about if all of them
Yeah.
will be doing this, and so it feels like there's some type of communication, or maybe that we take an
Yeah, I
active
think
role
as-
as
I
our
think as
liaison. We
Well,
present
yeah.
what's.
Yeah.
Last winter, John initiated this, town-wide committee,
Kumbaya.
kumbaya, potluck.
Yeah,
That would be a great time to regroup. Not that everyone
And
can
to present
attend, but
the
to
town plan.
just to.
Yeah.
I'll talk to John about that.
okay,
He had all the
we're
chairs.
we're
meeting for
already
now.
talking about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
Yes.
great.
and we can
Yeah,
conduct.
It's like, there's just.
Don and I are already talking about this. I
Cool.
don't want to speak for him, but it is something that I'm hoping that he will push the committee chairs to buy into,
Yeah.
in terms of everyone creating a work plan and identifying what within the town plan they will be helping implement this year. And we talked about having that as a conversation at the annual potluck thingy that he does.
Beautiful.
So,
I am happy to volunteer with you, Sabina, if it would be helpful in some design thinking.
Absolutely.
yeah, I was
Right?
thinking it would be good to have like
I like that.
like Eric suggested a spreadsheet, or it could be maybe just another column on the getting it done
Yeah,
table or something to be able to update. So you just have to populate some
Yeah.
kind of,
yeah, but I'd be really happy to do
Form.
that and then also
That
think
sounds
about
great.
how we then. Because there's a part that's helping us track, but then there's the, how do we want to communicate it to the public? In a visually engaging, and then the way that that would then feed in, Chris, to the quarterly update that we broadcast out in the world. So sort of that whole, those interconnected pieces, I'd be glad to be your partner with that.
I would love this partnership.
Okay.
sounds great. Okay, and, well, I don't think we need anyone on these, because this is everybody on the zoning updates. The wastewater report. I think that would be a collective effort as well.
Well, I think Susan's already really deep in it. So
Yeah.
even if her name wasn't on there, I'm not sure anyone else is more informed.
How about the official map,
I'd like to have a role in that if I can.
Eric? Okay.
I would like to be in the conversation. I mean, but I'm already on the natural resources overlay, so,
Right, right.
but, as an adjunct. to the adjunct, I would say.
Put you in for
The adjunct.
anyone else interested in?
Do we need someone for the Riverside zoning? Form-based code?
That's
I
all
think
of
that's
us
gonna
already.
be
I think.
everybody.
Okay.
And David's he's the consultant on the project, so he'll
Yes,
have a major.
yes, they will be working with us.
So when we say the point person, can we just be a little more clear about the difference
Yeah.
between a lead and a point
I'm
person?
not sure point.
Right, so, cause I
Yeah.
think about it, there's
Yeah, what do we want?
Yeah, I think
Liaison was one you used
Yeah.
earlier.
liaison, I like that.
liaison doesn't sound like it does anything, no
Mhm,
offense, but
right.
it's like, it's a,
I feel
hey,
like
I'm
that's
gonna
the
check in with
first-
you.
Yeah,
As opposed to the
Lead pusher.
lead pusher, the designer, the project manager, the taskmaster,
I was gonna
So
say
proponent?
support person, yeah, proponent.
you know what I mean? It's not like who's gonna be like,
project
like
advocate.
in my
Oh,
world,
Advocate.
Right?
Advocate.
That's a
That's
great
a good
one.
one.
Very action
All
oriented.
right,
Advocate is good, but it doesn't have planning connotations.
right?
Right, like, is the function of the group to create a work plan
I
for
think
the
it is.
task?
mhm,
I think it is.
I think it is too.
So I mean, that to me is more like project manager. Like in my world.
Well, how is that
But-
different than the lead person?
There's,
Lead would normally be a
so
project.
there are all these leads who may or may not actually, they're like the designated
Okay,
They're
so,
figureheads.
so let's,
figureheads.
Well, hang on.
Exactly.
Most
Thank
of
you.
these things are
Right.
done by a different organization than the planning commission.
but not all of them. So let's
No.
revisit this from the point of view of like, is, on the first one, is the lead really Susan/PC? Maybe it's not, because all of the PC is not gonna build that timeline together, piece by piece, line by line.
So in
So
my,
maybe the lead person actually is
Okay.
Katie and Sabina.
so there's the way that in project management and roles and responsibilities in the world I work in, there's who's responsible for getting it done, who has the authority and the accountability to say, yep, I get to make the decision, and then who's consulted and who's informed,
Rate the
right?
chart.
The race.
Love it.
So what I'm saying for this, if we received this, the lead is the A. So those are the folks who ultimately have the authority or the accountability, because it's sort of, we've designated, this is the body that holds it. But the people who are actually gonna get shit done, those who are responsible to make sure that it comes back to the committee, that makes sure that it comes back and gets its way through the approval process, are what we're
Worker
calling.
bees.
Right, but that's why I like advocate, because when it
Yeah,
comes to the
advocate.
capital plan. I think John is most of the letters, and I think what we're asking for is how do we provide? How do we advocate to broaden that process and for that process to happen more quickly when we actually have no authority, no responsibility? We technically do not have to be consulted in any way, and we barely have to stay informed, and that's by pulling stuff out of
Totally
it.
hear you. So maybe it is different on the ones where
So
we
that's-
are the
Yeah,
responsible body. But so maybe for this, we just say for example, the capital plan and budget we don't give it a title, but we say advocate in the box, and we give it to
Right.
the three people, right? And then we could say Sabina and I for number 3. Sabina and I are going to plan and design, right?
mhm.
And just,
But right there on that one, the PC is
yeah,
responsible and accountable.
right.
Yeah, I would
Maybe
say
there's
for-
another column in there, maybe there's an advocate column, and that advocate column is only, the cell's only used if it's appropriate, and then there's a
Mhm.
project management column.
So advocate is if it's not the PC's
Yeah.
job,
Yeah,
lead is.
how do we
is-
wedge
if-
ourselves in there?
So we put a little check. in the
So
first-
what was this column gonna be called?
Is it project management?
Yeah,
So in column 3C, that is blank, and Sabina and Heidi go into 3D.
Right.
correct.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay.
You there.
And then do we need an advocate or project manager for the updating the zoning?
I don't think so, because we'll be doing that in a similar fashion to the town plan
Okay.
where we're all kind of involved.
Well, we
Yeah.
actually, can I offer that we actually are saying that David's the project manager if we've hired him to do something?
So I would be managing David. So
Okay.
I would be the project manager, because David's the consultant.
We
in
have an
this case.
established timeline with David.
Not yet, he and I
Okay.
haven't met about
Okay.
it.
All right. So then maybe we say,
Do we have a supporter who's
oh, that's
on
fine.
the PC who's part of that?
For,
For the CBD and the VCTR? The village centers for the changes in the zoning regs. Do we need a PC member to be a part of that?
To
Or is it-
review anything before you present it to us? Or do you feel really confident that what you present is gonna be 90% where we wanna end up?
I do think. that
That's,
will be
that's
the
honestly
case.
my expectation
Mhm.
based
Yes.
on the money we're paying.
Yes,
And I also feel like Chris and a few other people went through the character-based zoning and gave feedback.
Yeah.
yes, and
Last
David has
year.
all of that, he already has it all.
So I feel like that was a strong contribution.
Well, I would be happy to be involved if there's a role, but if not, then we can just wait and see.
And that would be the same with row 5 then as well.
You have parentheses, then that's like a, if
Mhm.
needed.
Adjunct
backup.
professor, I like that.
Okay.
Yep.
Do you want to be on both of these, Chris?
I'd like to be on the low and moderate because that fits with my role in the
Right.
Affordable Housing Committee.
Do you want to be like the backup? If needed?
Yep.
Okay. Very good. We can put Susan on that one. Eric with Sabina backup, but is this advocate? This is really, I think.
You're right.
Project manager.
Supposed
Project.
to be here.
Just wanna do control X, control C. Just wanna-
I want to say that too, but
Just wanna.
so
locate.
8 would also, wouldn't that, since that again is low and moderate housing, we're looking at farming some of that out to the Affordable Housing Committee?
I'm not sure about this one. I think I'd hold off. Assigning that for the moment.
I have to confess, I don't understand why it's not the same as number 5.
Because it's outside of the village centers,
And so it would be just totally different?
the rest
They
of the
have
town.
they have very different
Yeah.
zoning.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So I kind of agree, like to do both of them is too big.
It's just, okay,
Mhm.
thank you.
There are some members in the community who would insist that we take care of 8
Yes,
before we take care of 5, but
Sure.
yes.
I will leave them unnamed.
Yeah, I understand.
And
know who
for
it
me,
is.
the tiebreaker, because I actually agree personally with that, but the tiebreaker for me is that the state mandate is around village centers. So
Correct.
for me, that puts it. at the front.
Okay,
Yeah, and
For me, it does
And
too,
the
because we're gonna have
scope of the-
wastewater and
The
sewer
grant
and
is-
water.
the scope of the bylaw modernization grant that we got to support that work is specific to
Village
village
centers,
centers.
right.
Okay, so I think
okay.
So
So,
down to line 8, line 9, right?
9. I think this one's still like sort of in the holding zone because. We need to kind of get some other things checked off first and wait for the map, so I don't know if anyone wants to be assigned to it now, we can come back to it.
when you say the map,
Future.
I'm sorry, is it the official map or it's the
No.
overlay is to the which map?
To the mapping of the forest blocks.
Oh, God, thank you. Okay. And so does it make sense that we would just say that the project manager is would it make sense to at least say which committee, whether it, because we've got three,
Well,
three-
conservation, well, and I know Susan has been pretty involved in this from the first iteration, so. I can't speak for her, but I would think that she would be
I
interested.
think she would be good at it too, because I
Yeah.
think she has a very good understanding of how the overlay works.
Right.
so should we put her as the advocate, if not the project manager?
I'd say advocate.
And can we at least pencil in some kind of timeline to this for the 4 quarters?
Let's finish advocating first.
Okay.
Do we need to look at the things below row 12 at this point?
Sure, we can kind of look at them, but many of them are, you know, me going to meetings,
Mhm.
me reviewing documents.
I would say that if we receive some of those grants,
Yeah,
Then-
these grants, this is, what was that grant called? Rural Partnership? So if you recall, I don't know, did we we did give background on that at some point here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a grant through UVM. We put in a proposal to work with UVM, to help us develop an outreach strategy around the wastewater project. And the second project that we put in a request for is, ways we can leverage existing housing stock to increase affordable housing. So that would be another, outreach effort. And we'll find out, I think this month, whether we're invited to submit a full
we'll
proposal.
find out soon.
Soon?
Yeah,
Are they already discussing?
well, because I think the full proposals are due the end of the month, end of
Oh.
January.
Okay.
Okay, so.
Yeah.
we'll find out
Yikes.
soon.
And does the feasibility study include communication with the range and their potential interests for
Yes.
wastewater? Okay.
Yes, yep, we've had a couple of meetings with them. And then this Jericho Center to MMU is another grant that I submitted and I probably won't hear about that till February, maybe even March. That's a pretty slow turnaround on that.
That's the
That's the
sidewalk.
sidewalk extension.
Yeah, finishing that last segment from,
Mhm.
Ethan Allen Road intersection with Lee River up to the high school track field.
Yeah, that includes the bridge.
It would include a pedestrian.
It's a big
bridge.
deal.
But we as planning commission won't have much role in that once it's.
No, this lower part of the spreadsheet is really other projects that are going on that primarily I'm involved with, but the PC wanted to be aware of and
Mhm.
updated about.
Great.
All right. Well, that
So,
was,
so Christie wanted to talk about timing on these.
Well, there was the number 9 just doesn't have any, well, 8 and 9 don't have any. I thought it seems weird to have a
Oh, you
list
mean what
without-
you need,
No
I see.
horizon.
no
So-
horizon at
the
all.
reason they don't have a time horizon is because they're dependent on the time frame for other things happening. So updating, number 8, updating the village, the zoning outside of the village center will be dependent on how we progress with the bylaw modernization grant with numbers 4 and 5.
So then conceivably though, if we have adopting the number 4 and 5 by quarter 3, couldn't we say begin quarter 4,
Potentially, we could have
right?
it penciled in. Mhm.
I mean, it's all penciled in, right?
Yeah,
Right,
yeah, it's all penciled in.
But
Yeah,
then
this
it
is-
shows, right, it
This
shows
is a
the,
paper document.
Right,
All
so-
fired, you don't accomplish everything on this document.
but maybe it's,
Yes, also no performance bonus for you.
Put a question mark.
I mean, we could just say discuss, right?
Right. Initiate, I think that makes sense, because here's the other thing, are there any places? Again, with the idea that the actual updates can't happen until certain things other happen, but is there a project plan that needs to be developed so that when the other updates are done, you're ready to roll? Is there any need for that, for the natural resources overlay or the
I mean, we
update
can
to
put
zoning?
discuss in quarter 1 because that takes us through March, right? And I
Yeah.
think we'll have something to talk about between now and March.
Yeah, but Heidi's idea is very good. If we have something, okay, let's take item 8. Item 5 gets done. We should have something ready to go immediately for item 8.
Yes.
So we should be
that's our
planning on,
Right.
Capital planning
pre-positioning
process
for that.
concept. Yes. we should.
Right, and so I think that the idea that we would have leads for those that would be responsible for at least laying out, here is what the project plan is, so that when we are ready to hit go, once that
Right.
dependency is done.
So
Linda,
that-
do you feel that line 8, because it's dependent upon line 5, do you feel that realistically the best way to accomplish that is with another consultant or a grant? Or do you think that line 8 would be undertaken by the PC?
I'm not sure that I have an answer for that in this moment, but I do think we could benefit from working with Chittenden County Regional Planning, which we'd have an opportunity next year in the fourth quarter to request assistance from them
This year?
of 2024.
Okay.
Yeah,
How much of that, though, for line 8 wouldn't just be a search and replace from line 5? So line 5 is about reducing obstacles for low and medium, moderate income inside the V centers.
Mhm.
Outside the village centers, wouldn't we just essentially say, if you're, instead of being a quarter acre, if you're on a full acre, here's the text from the quarter acre, drop it in there.
It needs more public,
It needs public outreach and all those things,
Um,
but I'm talking about the actual,
So
the rules.
my experience in working on the PUD zoning with Susan last year and the year before was that we don't know what we don't know because we're not consultants and we have never written zoning, and we reviewed our own zoning and modified our own zoning, but the reality is that we don't even know what's, I'm gonna say air quotes, normal. So it took us months of research. Like I'm confident saying I did over 120 hours of research, just trying to understand 2 other towns' PUD regulations, and Susan did 2 other towns, and then we tried to kind of level set, what is everybody else doing? Why are they doing it? Talking to a couple other planners, using Catherine, like, it was brutal. Without a consultant
And I think that,
who is well-versed,
That's where I think the benefit of
Right.
Chittenden County Regional Planning
Right.
would be, because they have staff who are already familiar
Yes.
with the zoning in a lot of the other neighboring towns in the region.
And the cycle for working with them is when? You seem to connect it to a particular
Yeah,
time
yeah,
frame
yeah.
that they're
They solicit requests for assistance in the last quarter, so like around this time every year.
So why don't we put in, submit, like, one of the deliverables, put it wherever it goes here, submit
Right,
that
in
request for
Q4.
assistance.
Yeah, we can put that in as.
Why don't we put that
placeholder.
here?
yeah, instead of initiating a discussion, why don't we put submit request to CCRPC? Cause then we can get organized.
Right, we
around
know
it.
it's coming, so the quarter beforehand, we're thinking about it and pulling stuff
Totally.
together.
so.
Yeah, and I
is that,
think-
Right.
should that be Q3, not Q4? Or plan for
Yeah.
submission?
Yeah,
No,
plan.
it should be Q4.
We don't plan.
We don't anticipate adopting 5 until Q3, so we would wait until we've done that to move forward.
No, what I heard Wendy saying is, is there any preparation we need to do before the request? No,
It's simple. Okay.
It's pretty straightforward.
okay,
And again, we may find out that the updates that are put in place for
Mhm.
inside the village center can be easily mirrored
Right.
for outside.
but the village, I mean, Riverside in particular would likely be a whole different scale of development than would happen in the rest of the town. And so I don't think it's a cut and paste.
That's
At all.
interface zoning is,
That's
Are you
a character base,
comfortable?
that's a different spot.
yeah.
that's,
Are you comfortable,
That's-
Chris,
that's
with
fine, which
language
is
in
a
the
village
quarter four
center.
that we're requesting the CCRPC assistance for line number 8?
Am I comfortable waiting until Q4?
Yeah, there's a rationale for waiting
well,
until
if you
quarter
think
four.
about the
Well,
possible vehicles to accomplish that, right? The first is to hire a consultant, for which I doubt we have budget. The second is to get a grant, and because it's not a village center, applying for the same grant that we got this time and actually getting it above someone else who is using it for a village center feels less likely.
Mhm.
Or we do it, which is a giant project and may not be the best use of our time. Or we ask CCRPC for help.
But it's possible, in addition, that there would be some relatively simple zoning changes that we could do on our own in the meantime that would facilitate development, but not be, that would happen in addition to advice we got.
I
The
had-
biggest change, sorry,
Yeah.
Dana, the biggest changes that we could have made outside the village centers to facilitate density and development were PUD updates, and that is why we did them first. That is
But I
the
think-
exact reason
but
why we did them.
I
first.
think we should change the density.
We already have. Density is not, I mean, I don't wanna circle back, but density is why is what we have worked to incentivize, and we did put incentives in the tables in PUD specifically to incentivize higher density, but because of Act 250 and lack of wastewater, they
It don't happen.
they don't have any teeth. They don't, the developers read them and they're like, they build what's off Morgan Road.
Yeah, but I'm
that-
talking
that
about,
neighborhood, because they don't wanna build more than 9
well,
houses.
that's different. I'm thinking about if you went from 3-acre zoning to half-acre zoning, then Billy Bob could say, I'm gonna sell off some of my land and someone else could buy it, and not a developer, but just, Sue and Jane, and build a house.
Somebody still has to build a road, somebody has to.
Yeah.
put.
No, it's
Can I-
just right, like.
Yeah, can I make a
next to-
suggestion? Just in terms of process,
Hmm.
right? What if we were to add a step in here that is tasking someone, of course, I don't know that it's you or if it's Eric, because it fits in with what we've already said about the zoning updates. And maybe it is actually with the, in partnership with the Affordable Housing Committee to actually review existing zoning and highlight where are the barriers.
Right,
Like, let's just be really clear that everybody knows what it is
Right.
and identify what are the barriers currently and put out a statement that we can all agree on that this is the barriers, and then we ask for assistance
'cause,
in
yeah.
overcoming them.
So two of the things that we've talked about in the past, and let me know if this sounds familiar to you. One of the things that we talked about was extending certain zones, like the commercial zone, extending the actual footprint of that to include other areas that are in 3-acre zoning. And thereby they become less than 3-acre zoning. That was one of the things we talked about. Another thing that we talked about was, again, zooming out, looking at the whole trapezoid that is the town and saying, do we want to take the whole area inside the triangle and make that not 3-acre zoning anymore? And that's not a zoning bylaw change. That is a whole scale mapping change to the density of an entire zone. That's not 2 or 3 lines incentivizing density in the zoning bylaws. That is a much different change, is my understanding, and
It
that
is.
requires
A
much
lot more thought, a lot more
bigger-
public outreach.
Yeah.
and a much bigger
What do we call
level
it?
of approval.
Mhm.
Like, I don't
Zoning.
think we can just do that.
It's still zoning, but it's different than this particular thing. Just, I'm trying to figure out where does it happen? What, like, who has
It would
authority?
be rezoning what is currently a 3-acre zone
Yes,
into a
you're
1-acre.
rezoning,
Thank
you're
you.
not changing a zoning bylaw to say
Thank you, it's
duplexes
rezone.
are allowed instead of single-family homes. You're changing the map itself,
Okay,
the color that says purple means 3 acres to orange, which means 1 acre,
okay.
which is like a much. it's
I actually
not a-
think that's what number 8 could be.
I do too, but
Oh.
that's not really what
But it's important to recognize also that
those are two different things.
they are two different things, and outside of the village center. Taking your example of I've got 10 acres and I just want to sell them acre and an acre and an acre. Somebody still has to put in the road. Somebody still has to put in the utilities.
Well,
Those
in some
are
cases, not in
bigger
all cases.
obstacles. And if I sell all 10 acres at once, I've subdivided. That's Act 250.
Yeah.
I am.
If I sell them one by one by one by one by one over the course of 5 years, that's Act 250.
I'm
So
just saying
that
that
is
if,
a bigger
I think we're getting
restriction.
a little too in the weeds.
We are
here,
getting
but-
in the
But
weeds.
I
That's
agree,
true.
but it's
Yeah.
important, so I do think that there's an opportunity by Q3 for 2 or 3 people to put their names in the box for line 8 and say. What are the best ways to reduce obstacles
What are the
outside of the
obstacles?
village centers, yeah, what are the obstacles?
What are the obstacles
Does
and
it
what are the,
mean
right,
Changing the bylaws, adding more density to the
Yeah.
tables, whatever, does it mean the town of Jericho writes letters to all of our legislators, blah, 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 to tell them why Act 250 isn't
Right.
working for
Right.
us? Or
Well-
does it just mean that we change the colors?
I'm happy to put my name on.
Yeah.
Well, but
That's a
there's, did you guys read the Act
It is.
250 proposed changes?
Yes,
And so there's a thing in there that would only apply, I think, to Riverside and Jericho.
correct.
That if the town
Designated
applies
growth
to it,
areas.
you could get the level, wouldn't get level 1 because there's not
No,
wastewater, but we'd get level 2, which would eliminate Act 250
but again,
in
that's
Riverside.
5% of our, 10% of our town.
But it's a
Yeah.
huge potential development area that
Yes.
would have potentially a lot of housing,
Absolutely.
way more housing
Right.
than all the other rest of the town put together, potentially. So it's a big deal. And so I just wanted to
Yeah,
make sure that we were on board with whatever that process is.
yeah,
that-
that's a
that's
good point to
4
make
and
too, though,
5.
because by the time we get to the second half of 2024, we'll know whether the legislature
Mhm.
has
Right.
moved any of those recommendations
Right.
forward, which I think will be really helpful in.
We should all reach out to our
Right, but
representatives
that's
and
why- but
encourage.
that's line 5.
Right.
Yep.
Because the commercial zone is designated as a village center, so it would be affected by the.
Well, but that, my point is that that's outside of,
That we apply.
It's listed in our town plan as a village
Yeah.
center.
No, it's listed as this plus. the
This
commercial
plus.
zone. Yeah,
so can we put in on
so maybe. the
Line
center line
8,
is
quarter
designated
3.
commercial zone as village center, which this guy's been asking.
Which would be great to do.
that's ridiculous.
So line
Wait,
8,
can you say
quarter
that again,
3.
Sarah?
Designate the commercial district
Mhm.
as a village center.
That's what the owners of the commercial district and Jim have been saying
Yeah.
for,
Right, so
since we
that,
did the commercial district project.
it's eligible for a whole different pool.
Yes, because we've changed the zoning and the density in the commercial district.
Mhm.
Let's just make the town a
But-
village center.
That area is not eligible for the designation that they want.
Why is it not? Tell me more.
I don't know all the details. I just remember looking into it and I was like, oh, we don't meet these criteria. We could talk about
Yeah.
it separately. I
Might have to have a certain number of population historically.
can't
living there.
remember what it is, but
Ironic.
Well,
plus
how
those
many workers can
designations
a
are
town
all
have?
going through an overhaul.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
they
they
will
did.
not exist any longer. Potentially within this next calendar year. They will exist in a different form. I shouldn't say they won't exist.
Right,
They
so
will-
let's write legislation for Act 250 around them and then let's remove them.
So,
So
Anyway.
I'm happy to have my name
Thank
put
you.
down on line 8.
On line
as-
8,
As
okay.
Yeah,
a sponsor or advocate or whatever.
yeah.
I
You
think
write it in
Chris-
all caps? No, I'm just kidding.
And I think Chris wants to join me on that.
No, Chris doesn't. Now,
Chris-
Eric,
wants to
I'm
argue
gonna
about
join you on that.
Okay,
And what I'm gonna do, put me in the project manager place,
for which one?
line 8.
Line 8?
I'm gonna join you.
Okay.
What I'm doing only, I'm gonna be very clear,
Okay,
is I am
make a note here.
creating the staff, like I'm just doing the plan part, the planning of getting here. Like I feel really committed to the, sorry, I'm not gonna give you good words yet.
Okay.
I know, you're so ready and I can't speak.
do you want to build the framework?
I do, so because what I think is that there is a piece that we do in quarter 2 and quarter 3 that we get super clear in a way that's like a 1 to 2 page or that says, here are the obstacles. I'm sure that the Affordable Housing Committee has done it. Here are the obstacles that our current zoning creates. Here are 3 or 4 different pathways
Right,
or levers that the town has. Then we ask for help from CCRPC to say which of these is feasible
Mhm.
or strategic and feasible, and therefore we move forward. I think there's like some work that can be done so that we have more progress and more clarity about what we want from CCRPC. And we have appropriately engaged the housing committee because they are on fire.
There's also a piece in there for me, like, if we're following that, thinking that we go to the CCRP with a pathway that we want to pursue, then needs to be some more public participation.
Oh,
before
yeah.
We get there,
Totally.
if we're going that route, because I think that is it's a major change.
Oh, yeah, I'm thinking we're just gonna lay out what the options are, but
Mhm.
not which one we recommend.
Mhm.
So the CCRPC time will be also part of the then figuring out how we do. Like, what consultation can they give us, and then what do we need to do in terms of public engagement, because I agree.
Okay,
I think Wendy's point is very appropriate that for both 4 and 5, that public outreach is going to be important.
mhm,
Oh, yeah.
yes,
And-
Oh,
and
yeah,
But even more so for 8.
Yeah.
I think people are ready for 4 and 5 to some degree,
mhm.
Yeah.
or at least for
Yeah, people outside the
Yeah.
village centers
character base.
may not like that very much.
I agree.
You want to be our outreach person?
I can work with you on
Okay.
that.
Okay, we're good on this? Feeling good about it?
so I think we just added,
Wendy.
You can have me with Eric,
Sorry, which one?
8.
Eight?
Yeah,
You're here?
yeah,
Okay,
I had to get in something.
great. Cool, all right, make sure I
Save that.
Awesome, cool, all right.
Okay, now do we want to dig into the town plan process for evaluating progress? The progress process?
We can, yes.
What
Can
are
we just
the-
assign that
This is-
to?
this
we
is
just
the
assigned it to
process.
Heidi
We did.
and Sabina.
So should we be digging into it, or would you rather that we not and let you
Yeah, what do you?
engineer a framework for it first?
I think we should bring you something to respond to.
Okay.
I love that plan.
Don't you think? Do you
That
agree?
works for me.
I just think it's trying to create something from whole cloth, but I do think if if anybody came with ideas, like Chris came with the idea of ensuring that there was some public facing product and communication on a quarterly basis, like anything like that where you think it's really important that we have as sort of either basic principles or ideas for us to fold
I
in.
want color-coded laminated copies of the how we get there in everybody's desk upstairs.
I've already got
And
mine.
right, but I want all your friends to have it.
They're getting it
And then I
done.
want a really big one.
Oh, look,
I
she
want
did
a
with it,
really
yeah.
big one, like poster size outside the window of the town clerk. And like laminate it, like I want it everywhere,
On the briefing desk of every select board.
pretty much.
But what-
Here's why you're here today, don't lose focus.
Well, what we should really do that with is the version that includes progress.
Yeah,
Yeah, so there was,
Yeah.
So
And we
are we
made-
starting the reporting process already?
we made a card
By
like
having said we
that
didn't want to do it?
for a project that I worked on, and it was the size to fit in, it was laminated and it could fit in it. Everybody seemed to have this size planners that they carried with them, and so it was, you were expected to have it in your planner when you came to a meeting, like we're looking, and it was numbered and color coded and just really super easy. That's kind of what I'm thinking, like we need something that visually works. We can't laminate if we're gonna track over
Mhm.
time, but if it's a,
I mean, again, how
Snapshot?
many years till we
Yeah.
do another town plan?
We could have,
So it's not to say we can't update it in between,
Right.
but like, I feel like lamination for 8 years is appropriate.
oh, for the plan itself, yes, just not the
For
process.
this,
But
yeah,
we-
how we get there.
we could have a giant dry erase board permanently mounted to the brick where, for example,
Yeah.
the select board comes into their meetings. They are reminded, oh yeah, there's the schedule, there's what we've done, and there's our next assignment.
Right,
Have you been,
We
you
can
haven't
make
been in my office
placemats. We can
upstairs?
make
Oh,
I have a
placemat.
whiteboard that's color coded with all my projects and.
I
exactly.
know
Each month
you
it
do, but I
outlines what
want
I'm
it
doing
for,
Each month for each project
Right.
and color coded.
Where do they meet?
they meet right here.
Here?
Yeah.
Yeah, they sit in those.
Yeah, they
seats.
sit right there.
Can we use this?
It was on that brick wall.
Tables.
Permanently affixed to the brick wall.
We can, no, I like the
So pretty.
placemats. Sabina's like, make placemats for each. Yeah.
Station.
The problem is
Tattoos.
it's 8 years, so each year is going to be really tiny.
No, So let's,
maybe we give them,
It's right there, you could fit it.
okay, so we're talking to get it done.
Heidi
We,
and
we, Sabina and I are gonna figure out which ones are gonna, like, right now, we're talking about the getting it done, which is the year, within 1 year. We're gonna make something that's within 1 year, we're gonna follow the color codes that they have in the plan. Chris has the beautiful one, I just have black and white.
Maybe it's a discussion point for the all committee meeting that we have, like, what if all committees had a standing agenda item?
Yeah.
That was, I don't know, progress on the town plan or actions directly related to the town plan. And that was on their agendas and then it was in their minutes. Public facing, rather than.
Oh, I do like that.
let's add it to the charter.
Public facing, I think it's great.
I think, yes, and we would need to really be effective, divide it up. Natural Resources Committee, you get this list.
Yeah,
Before, but you get
Yeah.
this list.
yeah. Yeah, the DRB
Trails,
doesn't
you
really
get this
get,
one.
the DRB, I think, doesn't have any assignments, right, because they,
Correct.
Their
but
enforcement.
they are, and they have a vested interest in knowing when specific changes are gonna happen, like the one you said, John.
So they get their chart as
infrastructure,
well. Here's the things to be looking for.
Specs,
Public Works stuff,
thank you.
yes.
But their ongoing assignment should be to provide feedback about
Yes.
what is not working.
Yes, and yes, they should be doing that.
Mm.
And in the light of those being the goals of the biggest things, the biggest changes that will affect their day-to-day conversations.
But most of what they do is enforce the zoning regs as they currently stand.
That is all they do. Yes.
Yeah.
They interpret and enforce.
So circling back to this item, town plan process for evaluating. We have decided that we are going to let Sabina and Heidi, who have been tasked with working on that, develop something to present at a future meeting that we will respond to. Okay. Great,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you.
Okay, well, that closes out item 5. Which brings us to item 6, which is reporting out about liaison updates, takeaways from recent events and seminars and upcoming events. Who has a liaison update they would like to begin with?
Well, I can begin.
Yeah.
In the last meeting of the select board in December. The select board agreed, this was a request put forth by the DEI committee. Agreed to put on the ballot for town meeting of 2 articles. I wish I had read the articles before I came to this meeting, but it's basically to have future town meetings. Have Australian ballot for the budget and yes, no articles. So those 2, all yes, no articles.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah,
So the committee didn't have to go out and collect signatures to get it. On this year's town meeting, so it will be on the voting articles in
In
person
person.
on the floor.
the
voting.
irony of the century.
But it will be, so the DEI committee's work now between now and March is public education. And to encourage people to attend town meeting who typically do not, so that they can be represented on the
Is it-
floor vote.
Is it on the agenda approximately what time the floor vote would take place?
I don't think they attach times.
Don't you have to call the vote for everything?
What do you mean
Yeah.
call the vote?
Somebody in the town has to submit, let's vote on this now, and it has to be approved, and then they vote.
Well, it's in the articles. It's gonna be published.
Right, but the
Warren.
time of when it happens is someone says, okay, I'm ready to call the vote, just like we do when we're doing things.
You know what? I'm not sure of the protocols.
Yeah. I haven't been to a town meeting in a number of years.
I think if there's a discussion going, it's kind of getting circular, someone can say point of order and that, or something like that.
Someone has to call the
And
vote.
that calls a vote, but
Right,
that doesn't mean that at 10, at 10:20.
and it doesn't have to happen, it's
Right.
only, it may happen.
Mhm. That was my point, is that if you want to show up at 10:15 and they're gonna vote at 10:16, you may have missed it.
Yeah, it's not that precise.
Yeah.
Right, if you're like, if they're in the middle of the town budget. And it's going on and
Yeah, it
on,
would be great if they could have the other stuff first.
maybe, yeah.
There's no reason why they have to vote on the budget first.
Because everybody else leaves after it's voted on.
Yeah, well, this would get everyone to come and stay.
Yeah.
Anyway. That's exciting.
Yes, it was a big deal.
My update from the DRB was that 2 weeks ago, the final review for the Riverside plan was supposed to happen at the DRB meeting and it was postponed. So I can't remember the date it was postponed to. Maybe next week,
I think it's sometime.
the next
It's
Wednesday,
Thursday or next Thursday. then.
Thursday.
No, they mean on Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesday.
I haven't gotten anything from Chris yet.
I think it's
so,
next week,
Yeah,
but,
but I feel 20th is somehow ringing. in my
Yeah, it
head,
might
but,
be.
Yeah. I, in terms of, walking and biking, I'm meeting with some people from the elementary and middle school. And somebody from Local Motion next Thursday to start talking about safe routes to schools and reinvigorating that program in Jericho. Or at least talking about reinvigorating it. The select board gave the Conservation Commission permission to apply for a grant to get money to help the town pay for ash tree removal and the rights of way. So I'm putting the finishing touches on that grant application. Hopefully we'll get some funding for that.
Another one, I just thought of that. There's a member of the Jericho Energy Task Force, who Peter Ehrlich, I
Uh-huh.
think that's how you pronounce his last name. He actually came to one of our meetings. And he asked us to consider revising zoning so that all new construction would have renewable energy as heating and hot water source, or heating and water source.
Mhm.
Using South Burlington as a model, and I think the South Burlington model is like 85% of one's residents would use renewable energy. Anyway, he has been hosting some conversations around, what does that look like? What would the next steps be? And he's hosting another conversation on January 14th.
Yeah.
Sabina?
In the evening.
Yeah, so if folks are interested in that, I guess we could just forward that invitation around
Sure.
to everyone in the committee, if you want to be a part of that.
Yeah. He also
Second.
brought that before the Energy Task Force as well officially, just to
Mhm.
kind of get some more support beyond the grassroots stuff that he's doing.
This is for new housing.
Yeah,
Will there be some capacity for assistance so that affordable housing projects aren't punished?
Well, that's one of the issues that we have raised with him,
yeah.
so.
I mean, he just sent out, I don't know if did you see that example that he sent out?
I haven't read it yet.
I don't know much time we should.
Okay.
He sent an example, because we said to him, you have to show us what you mean, and, there's I guess the newest development on Kennedy, in South Burlington, there's like those,
Oh, right,
yeah.
right, right.
And in those units, many of which are affordable, they all have heat pumps and things like that. I brought up with him the whole economy of scale thing, and that these are huge projects.
That's entirely different.
Right, I think it's entirely different, so I haven't reached back out to him to say, this is good, but it's really not, it's apples and oranges.
Yeah.
So it's a good idea, it's just,
It
we really
is.
need to figure out how it could be applied in Jericho.
Yes.
So that we have thought it through.
Right.
Any other liaison updates? Any takeaways from recent events or seminars? Or did you not go to any because it was the end of December and most of us were doing other things? Any upcoming events besides what we just talked about, the renewable and the DRB hearing?
Nothing on the calendar yet. Stay tuned.
Okay. Okay, so we'll close out item 6 and we'll move to item 7, which is other business.
I know we've been off for a while. But I just wonder if we have an anticipated date by when all the materials from David for the town plan are done and can go on the website. Because it still hits to the 2020 town plan if you just go there. So there are pieces that are needed to move us to, hey, it's final, and did
That's a
we,
great question. We adopted it.
right, and did we announce it to the world that we adopted it?
We have them.
Yes.
Okay,
They're just not on the website yet.
totally understood. I hope
Yeah.
that nobody's been working since that
Yeah.
crazy day.
So we have them.
Yeah.
The pieces are here.
Okay, do we need to do any, like, Yahoo to the whole world? And not, I mean, we did
press
it to
release.
ourselves,
Maybe once it's on the web, right?
yeah. Has that been part
There
of
should
our
be a place
plan?
they can go to read it if someone
Yeah.
wants to read the new town plan.
As soon as it's on the
Yes.
website, we could
Send
announce
out
it.
a,
I was telling me that it's quite a large amount of work to get all those documents.
oh, I can't even imagine.
So I think she's working on it.
Yep, we're just kind of, I just said to Linda, there were a couple of chapters that had some minor changes and she's gonna
Okay,
double check to make sure that the correct,
Hmm.
because we're down to the minutia.
Oh, yeah.
So, and since I don't know what the changes are,
Yeah.
she's gonna just look those over real quick, but it's all uploaded and ready to go.
okay.
It would be cool if, when you send those.
I was about to
texts
say,
that
how
it-
are you with gifts and widgets? Like, like when you like Happy New Year to another iPhone and it's the
The
fireworks.
fireworks, we need that, yeah. Beyond that, I didn't put it in the newsletter today because it wasn't quite ready. And I didn't want people to go looking for it, but we can, the next one's on the 14th, so we
Okay.
can definitely.
That seems that
Put a
seems really
shout out.
reasonable. And then I know that it's been very helpful when we all as committee members also send out something. If we haven't yet, we should to Front Porch Forum, but we'll wait until it's posted.
Well, and I think it would be nice to make our first communication, one of these, like,
Yeah,
here are the things that we're,
Right.
and,
Yes, here's what we committed to.
yeah,
at this point, I mean,
let's do that.
reading it is great, but I think
No, no,
it's
no,
more
it's
important
not-
to have people think, oh, here's what's getting done.
Totally.
Do we have a top 10 takeaways paper around that? Here's the top things you need to know about the new plan. that
We have
come
the
up with that.
executive summary.
Summary.
Yeah.
The executive summary is like several pages. We have like point 1, point 2, point 3, point 4.
We're
We
gonna,
don't have it, but
Yeah.
I don't know what will come.
Because that would be something that would be widely read,
Hmm.
would demonstrate that we're doing work and would be easy to disseminate.
well, I think let us do some noodling,
Yeah.
Eric, about is there a way for us to do? I mean, I think what we have is the getting it done section, and if there's a way for us to do that and then make it easy for people to go back into the town plan to learn more about why this item's here.
Right.
Right,
Yeah.
go back into the plan or something, right?
Or if all you're going to read about the town plan is this,
Yeah,
you know at least where we're going.
yeah,
Right.
okay.
And
Hopefully
there's
we don't
still
get to-
people out there who are like, we have a town plan?
Those are the people who need to reach with this.
But,
Yeah.
yeah, but are we reaching them? I mean,
Yeah,
I really want to learn more about.
I've become a really, really big believer in TLDR. And everything I write, I have a TLDR. You don't read the rest? Here's what I'm telling you.
What does that stand for?
Too long, didn't read.
Oh, yeah.
That acronym was too long.
That's why it's TLDR.
Very short attention span. Okay, any other business? Actually, I have one. Does anybody have one? Okay, I have a question. Does anyone's term expire in March?
I believe mine might.
And are you renewing?
I'd like to.
Thank you.
Your name's on that
Right.
list for 43, you're gonna renew.
I noticed that I am listed on the website as through 2024.
So
Yeah, so
then your
you
term would be
may have
expired.
stepped into a term that was not completed by the person who stepped out of it.
Okay, so does that mean I am also
Yeah.
out
I
in
think they
March
will
and I need
ask
to do
you.
something? Okay,
Do you want
In-
to
yeah.
renew?
In the
Yeah, it's
past,
just a verbal, like,
Yes.
okay,
are you,
Or an
conti-
email.
like Paula will say, are you gonna continue? And you say, yes, I will.
okay,
Yes, I have received it in an email. So my first term was a partial term.
okay.
so mine expires, yours expires this, who
I
else
guess so,
expires this
yeah.
year?
Might just be two people.
So on the
Usually
website.
just two.
Yeah, it is on the website.
That's how I discovered it,
Yeah.
right?
You're like, what? I'm expiring?
Yeah.
Look at that, it's open.
You're already on the town website. How unexpected.
Where do I wanna go? What am I looking up?
Planning commission term.
Whose term
Term
when?
members.
Alright.
It was like on the bottom right corner. We had
Under the
our,
members.
had the members
Know it
listed.
well. Okay, Heidi, Chris, Eric are
Oh,
twenty
Chris, you too.
twenty-four. And we should confirm that that's correct.
I thought Sarah and I came in at the same time.
But I came in on a partial term and mine expired, so I'm 2025.
And then Wendy and I are 26, who we just renewed.
You're coming up on 6 years.
Holy cow.
I get a little badge or something.
I'll give you that. We'll be twinning with our 6 years of service badge. Yep.
Are you guys really?
Yep.
We need a coat like on Saturday Night Live when you host 5 times.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
right.
need the green jacket. The robe.
All right, so that's everybody's term. So Susan and Sarah are 25, Wendy and Sabina are 26. And then everyone else is this year.
Okay,
Time flies.
it does. Time flies when you're having fun. Okay, that is other business. Now we need to move on to the next agenda item. We'll wrap up in planning for next meeting. Our next meeting is January 16th and then February 6th. So. What, Linda, what do you
Yeah.
have on your list?
Well, for next meeting, I'm hoping that we'll be able to initiate the bylaw modernization grant. That's assuming I get the contract from the state by then. If not, I might just do a presentation without David, just kind of giving an overview of the grant and talking about, the form-based code and the village center zoning. And then for February 6th, actually, one of the items I had here was review member term limits. By then, I'm hoping we will be able to bring David in to start talking about the more detailed form-based code. And possibly village wastewater. So,
It'd be really nice to see the village wastewater
yes,
move forward a little bit further.
I know.
Can I suggest that on the 16th, that Sabina and I will be giving you the suggested.
That'd be great.
Is 2 weeks enough time?
Sure,
Totally.
I don't know, should we?
Well, you can let me
Keep
know,
it
like,
simple
the
and
Friday
then the
before.
answers.
Yes.
Before, if you need more time, I can pencil it in, and then if you guys, you know, aren't able to
Sometimes
get.
earlier feedback can be helpful.
Yeah,
Nothing focuses the mind like a deadline.
That's true.
Mhm. I agree.
I also want to recognize, however, we just tasked poor Sabina with a tremendous amount of work with putting stuff on the website and other things, so, yeah, okay,
That's different.
Okay.
That's different.
okay.
So you guys are right, the town compensates me for putting stuff on the website, so I'm not like a martyr and I'm not a saint.
You're,
you
have a.
I get paid. So don't feel bad about that. I mean.
Okay.
it's
You're a
still a pain in the ass
webmaster.
Sometimes.
Yes,
to-
Right.
It's because of the way the program is, it's very tedious.
Okay.
Flicking. But that's
Okay.
that's just fetching, that's not. a bad-
I do love right now when you go to the town plan it shows it for the version 4 of the new one, but the chapters, you can just click a chapter.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah, the
really
navigation
nice.
is really nice.
Yeah.
Very intuitive.
That's good, yeah, and I mean, the question is. Should, should we keep a permanent setup like that, for
Yes.
people,
Nice.
so that it's just easy.
Because I
easy
wanted to see getting it done and I didn't
Yeah.
have to slog through
Same here.
65
Yeah.
pages. I was like,
Yeah.
oh.
That would
I'll-
actually go
get it
on my
done.
wish list is if our zoning were segmented in that way, so that
Wow.
people could skip to sections and
Mhm.
understand what they were about and read the
That would be
PUD section or whatever.
Yeah, and we still don't, I don't know how this will ever happen, sadly, but links, when
Mhm.
it says. See X in chapter
Yeah,
Y,
yes.
right, you're not taken there.
Yes.
So.
Yeah.
And is that like a summer intern's job who can
Maybe
do that for us?
build a lot of hot links.
Yeah.
Somebody who's a librarian study here.
Somebody
library
is-
studies would
yeah,
do
that.
there's somebody who.
Yeah, it could be done, it's just a.
Can AI do it?
Effort,
Right, but I mean, an intern position
yes. Maybe.
seems feasible. Anyway, we don't decide now, but
Yeah, so maybe
Interesting.
if we get a UVM intern, we could connect that
Interesting.
to.
if it was, and is that the best use of their time?
I don't know.
I don't know, but
Well, if they
It's
learn
just
how
what
to
works
index
is-
properly by doing that, then it's a good use of their time.
well, I mean, though, is it the best use of our,
Does it make it easier for the public to find things they're looking for? Is it in our best interest to have the public find things that they
Yes.
look for?
I mean, I think so,
Then
but.
it's good for us.
Yeah.
We don't like it. Anyway, I have a motion I'm happy to make.
We're
If
almost
everybody-
there. We're so close. We're so
That's
close.
gonna be on Eric's place bet, move to adjourn.
We're so close, TLDR. Linda, do you have a date yet? I forgot to ask you this for that alternatives presentation. For the path
Not yet.
from here to there? No,
Mm-mm.
okay.
I think I have it penciled in. In February.
And would that be presented at a select board meeting or at a planning commission meeting?
So there's two, well, you're talking about the path, selecting an option for the path,
Mhm.
that would be at a select board meeting.
The Route
Okay.
15.
The Route 15 path. There is another public information meeting that needs to be held regarding the Riverside sidewalk that we have a grant to engineer and build that is actively in progress.
Mhm.
And that public information meeting, I talked to Susan about using part of a PC meeting to hold that,
Okay,
and that might be in February.
okay. Okay. Any other planning for the next meetings? Hearing none, we will close out item 8 and move to item 9. Do we have a need for an executive session today? No, we do not. We will close out item 9 and move to item 10. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move that we adjourn.
Thank you, sir. Do I have a second?
I will second.
Thank you so much, Wendy. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
17 minutes early.
Fantastic.